Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Friend, and I wanted to just cover some points with you of things that I learned in our readings. Chapter 1 is a great overview of family life education. And this is something that I remember reading this chapter back in Family 150 when I began the major study of marriage and family. And I really feel that this chapter sets the foundation for family life education and for our studies as marriage and family majors. And some of the things that they talked about in this chapter are approaches to family life education. I think we're all familiar with what the expert approach is: facilitator, critical inquirer, collaborator, interventionist, and eclectic. I really identify with the collaborator approach and have had some experience with this, but I would really like to get better at the eclectic approach of having the gift of being able to pull in aspects of each of those approaches where it's appropriate, of really discerning what does my audience need right now and how can I best deliver that to them. And I think that as I do that, I will become a better and more effective family life educator. They talked about the importance of developing a working philosophy of family life education and the importance of writing it down. And this reminded me of a therapy program that a loved one is enrolled in right now. In part of this program, this loved one is required to write down every single day why they are fighting for change. And it's powerful. And I realized that this is why we do this, because it keeps it fresh in our minds and it helps us identify clearly to ourselves and remind ourselves, why am I doing what I'm doing? And it kind of provides that foundational support to go back to and remember, okay, this is why I'm a family life educator. This is what I believe. This is what I operate from. They talked about beliefs about family. We know the nature of family. We know it's divinely appointed. I believe that the purpose of family life education is to help educate and strengthen families against life's challenges that might otherwise threaten to destroy them. And I feel that what we deliver to people should be scholarly based because it lends credibility to our programs. It ensures that correct principles are taught, and it relieves us of the burden of proof. It's really hard to argue with sound research. Chapter 2 talks about designing family life education programs, and the focus of family life education should be on prevention, not on counseling. They talked about the different levels of prevention, and as we work in the family relations program for our Family 445 class, we're going to mainly be working in the primary and maybe a little bit of the secondary level. And I believe that, in working with the primary, we will be able to help families strengthen relationships before more serious issues develop, that will provide them with that instruction, that education. And if we have participants who are in secondary level who are already at risk, they really could benefit from having strategies taught to them that will help them prevent more serious issues from developing. They talked about what we should teach, the prevention of education models and what they should incorporate. So the prevention education model should incorporate content, instructional process, implementation process, and evaluation. And so this is the format that we're following right now. We have to do appropriate research so that our content is scholarly. We have to develop sound lesson plans as part of our instructional process. We need to meet our participants' needs as part of the implementation process, and we need to evaluate if the program helped the participant or not. In chapter 16, they talked about marketing, and I've had a personal experience with this. I was invited to teach a couple of times now at the Portland Music Workshop. It's a regional workshop, and people come from all around to take different types of music classes that will enhance their callings in the church. It's sponsored, by members of the church. And at first, the marketing was not very successful, but then the committee started sending out surveys of the types of classes that people were interested in. When they started offering those types of classes, more people started coming. However, they still need to do a better job at honing in on positioning their product or answering the question, what's in it for me? That's what will really draw people in. If they don't feel that there's something in it for them, they're not going to come. And I know that as we are careful about that in our family life education areas, that we seek to address, well, what's in it for me? Why do I need to come to this? It will really help draw people in. Chapter 18 focused a lot on improving family life education practices. They mentioned, first of all, professionalization. And this reminded me of the blank look I get when I tell people my major. Have you had this experience where you say, oh, I'm a marriage and family studies major? Oh. And they don't quite know how to respond to that because they don't really know what is the value of this major and what can you do with that. And so I tell them, well, I could be a family life educator and help educate people about marriages and families and how to keep their family strong. And okay. So that just emphasized to me the importance of helping to professionalize the family life education field. This also led me to ask myself, how can I be more proactive about my work? And so I realized that I want to find out company programs in the area that support or would support family life education amongst employees. I want to talk to them and see if they have anything in place or if they'd be interested in working with me to develop programs where I could deliver family life education to their employees to help strengthen their family relationships, which would make them better employees, less stress at home, less stress at work. I would like to partner with family life educators in this area to market and host classes for the community at local schools. And also I want to try and contact legislators about local policies affecting families. In my area, I need to be very careful about the diversity of the people that I would be instructing. It's a highly diverse area. There are a lot of families in the area who have same-gender parents. So I need to be careful about how I approach family life education with them. And also there's a lot of underserved audiences here that I would need to try and reach. The last thing I wanted to touch on was Appendix A and some of the principles that they talked there about in that appendix. They talked about empathy, and this made me think of a live therapy session that I viewed in my Family 360 class. Brother Higgins was doing a therapy session with a family that had a 17-year-old son, and he showed great empathy to this young man, and it really softened his family's heart and also opened our eyes as students to the possibility of the power of empathy and the change that it can bring within a family. And so that was a really powerful experience that I will remember for a long time. Another principle they covered was integrity. And this is something that I try and teach, or actually just automatically teach on a daily basis to my children. There's a lot of opportunities for me to say, hey, you told your sister you'd do this, so you need to follow through and do that or she won't trust you. You know, of teaching my children, if you don't have integrity and you don't follow through with your word that you gave, people won't trust or respect you. They talked about chaos, and this made me think of Brother Gardner's video from Family 400. And he put 4 people in a large Lycra tube, and he instructed them to move away from and then toward each other. And so they were kind of moving in this motion. So the Lycra was stretchy, and it could stretch about 20 feet. And so they started this going faster and faster and faster. And then, of course, it dissolved into chaos. And it was just illustrating that family systems are not perfect, and families are going to have chaos, and they're going to have issues where they struggle, and we need to be sensitive about that as family life educators. Lastly, I wanted to talk about legacy, and this made me think of Christ's quote in Matthew chapter 16, where he said, "Whosoever shall save his life shall lose it, but whosoever shall lose his life for my sake shall save it." And Christ lived by this principle, and so should we as family life educators. Legacy means looking outside of oneself and serving others. And as we help the people, the participants that we work with, look outside of themselves, we will do the very best that we can in delivering our family life education in an effective manner. Thank you.